The crystalline chamber floated in the darkness of space, orbiting the bright center of the galaxy. Inside, thousands of beings from across the stars gathered. Some had scales, others had fur. Some glowed with inner light, while others buzzed with the sound of countless wings. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would make a decision about humanity. Ambassador Tae-Jin sat alone in the human section. His black suit looked plain compared to the colorful robes and armor around him. He watched the other species with calm eyes, his hands folded on the table in front of him. Next to him, his tablet displayed the charges against Earth. The list was long. High Counselor Vexarathi rose from his seat. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and a body covered in green-black shell. His kind, the Vrexel, had been in space for 10,000 years. When he spoke, his voice clicked and hummed through the translator. "We gather today for a grave matter," Vexarathi said. "Humanity has been part of this council for 300 years. In that time, they have caused more problems than any species in our history." He gestured with one clawed hand, and images appeared in the air above the chamber. The first image showed human soldiers fighting on a distant world. "They interfere in local conflicts," Vexarathi continued. "Human mercenaries fight in wars across the galaxy, making peaceful situations worse." The next image showed a map of human colonies spreading across space like a red stain. "They expand too fast. Every year more human settlements appear in neutral zones. They take resources that should be shared." Another image appeared showing a destroyed alien ship. "They are too aggressive. When threatened, humans respond with overwhelming force. They do not know restraint." Tae-Jin watched quietly, making notes on his tablet. His face showed nothing. Speaker Lithis floated forward next. She was pure energy, contained in a field that looked like a ball of light. Her voice was soft but filled the entire chamber. "The Luminari have existed for 50,000 years, she said. "We have seen many young races join the galactic community. But humans are different. They are unpredictable, dangerous. They refuse to share their military technology, even when we ask for peaceful purposes. They say it is for our protection," Lithis continued, her light pulsing with emotion. "But what are they protecting? What weapons do they have that they will not show us?" More species spoke. The Dulari, with their blue skin and fish-like features, complained about human trade practices. The Nixari, beings made of living crystal, said humans stole their technology designs. On and on the complaints went. Finally, Commander Drix stepped forward. He was massive, covered in red scales with teeth like knives. The Korthan were warriors respected across the galaxy for their honor in battle. Drix looked at Tae-Jin for a long moment before speaking. "The Korthan understand strength," Drix said, his voice deep and rough. "Humans are strong. Perhaps too strong. They adapt faster than any species we have seen. They learn from every fight. They never make the same mistake twice." He paused. "This makes them dangerous, but—" He hesitated. "It also makes them worthy of respect." Vexarathi clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "Respect? They are barbaric. They come from a world where they spent thousands of years fighting each other. War is in their nature. They cannot change." Tae-Jin finally looked up from his tablet. He met Vexarathi's eyes but said nothing. The silence stretched. "We cannot risk the peace we have built," Vexarathi declared. "Humanity must be removed from the council. Let them return to their own space. Let them be isolated where they can harm no one but themselves." "I call for a vote," Vexarathi announced. "All in favor of expelling humanity from the Galactic Council?" Lights appeared across the chamber. Green lights meant yes, red lights meant no. The chamber filled with green. Tae-Jin watched the lights appear one after another. His expression never changed. The final count appeared in the air. 847 in favor, 12 against, 43 abstained. It was done. Humanity was expelled. The chamber erupted in sound. Some species celebrated. Others looked uncomfortable. A few, like Commander Drix, sat in silence. Vexarathi turned to Tae-Jin. "You have one standard day to remove all human presence from council space. You will return to Earth and stay there. If human ships are found beyond your territory, they will be destroyed." "Do you understand?" Tae-Jin stood slowly. He was shorter than many beings in the room, but something about the way he moved made others step back. He buttoned his suit jacket with careful precision. "I understand perfectly," Tae-Jin said. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. "Before I leave, I believe I should make something clear. You deserve to know what this vote truly means." Vexarathi waved a dismissive hand. "It means you are no longer welcome here. What else is there to know? Taejin smiled. It was not a happy smile. You have made assumptions about humanity. You see our conflicts and call us barbaric. You see our expansion and call us greedy. You see our strength and call us dangerous. He walked toward the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. What you do not see, Taejin continued, is that everything you fear about humanity has been restrained, controlled, limited. Speaker Lithis pulsed with curiosity. What do you mean, limited? Taejin reached the center and turned slowly, looking at every species present. When humanity first encountered alien life, we made a choice. We created rules for ourselves. We called it the Codex of Restraint. Every action you have cited today, every aggression, every conflict, every expansion, all of it was humanity operating under those rules. Rules? Vexrathi scoffed. What rules? Rules to make us acceptable to you, Taejin replied. Rules to make us seem less threatening. Rules to help us fit into your idea of civilization. He paused, letting the words sink in. But you have voted us out of your council. You have expelled us from your laws and your community. The chamber had gone completely silent now. Every being watched Taejin. That means, Taejin said softly, the Codex of Restraint is no longer in effect. We are no longer bound by the rules we made to be part of your society. He looked directly at Vexrathi. You wanted to see what unrestrained humanity looks like. You are about to find out. He turned and walked toward the exit. At the door he stopped and looked back. High Counselor, you mentioned our history of fighting ourselves. You should have asked us what happened when we stopped fighting each other and fought as one. You should have asked us what total war means. But you did not ask, and now it is too late. The doors closed behind him, leaving the council in shocked silence. Commander Drix was the first to speak. His voice was barely a whisper. By the ancestors, what have we done? The emergency council session began 6 hours after Taejin left. Vexrathi called the meeting, but now he stood silent at his station, his mandibles clicking nervously. Around the chamber, species that had celebrated earlier now looked worried. Taejin returned, but he was not alone. Admiral Hana walked beside him, her military uniform sharp and clean. Dr. Kyung-soo followed, carrying several data devices. The three humans moved through the chamber like they owned it, showing none of the politeness they had displayed before. You requested this meeting, Taejin said to Vexrathi. I assume you want to discuss my final statement? You made threats, Vexrathi said, trying to sound confident. Empty threats meant to frighten us. We are not frightened by human words. Taejin smiled again, that same cold smile. No threats, Counselor. I simply stated facts, but I can see you need clarity, so let me provide it. He gestured to Dr. Kyung-soo, who activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. This is the Codex of Restraint, Taejin said. A document appeared in the air, its pages filled with dense text and numbers. When humans discovered faster-than-light travel, we knew we would meet other species. We studied our own history and saw a problem. We had spent 10,000 years fighting wars against ourselves. We were very good at it. Images appeared above the document. Humans in ancient armor fighting with swords. Humans in trenches surrounded by mud and death. Cities turned to ash by massive bombs. Ships burning in space during early colony wars. We knew other species would fear us, Taejin continued, so we decided to change. We created rules to limit ourselves, to make ourselves acceptable to galactic society. He pointed at the floating document. Every rule is here. Every restriction we placed on our own people. Speaker Lithis drifted closer, her energy field pulsing with confusion. Why would any species limit their own strength? Because we wanted peace, Admiral Hana said. Her voice was hard as steel. We thought if we showed restraint, others would see us as civilized. We thought if we followed rules, we would be accepted. She looked around the chamber. We were wrong. Dr. Kyung-soo stepped forward, his voice gentler than the others. Let me explain what the Codex required. First, military forces. We limited our fleet to 40% operational capacity. Every ship you have seen, every weapon we deployed in Council-sanctioned operations was running at less than half power. Numbers appeared in the air. Fleet sizes, weapon outputs, casualty rates. The data showed patterns that made several species gasp. Our weapons are designed for minimum lethality, Kyung-soo continued. We could have made them more efficient, more deadly. We chose not to. When humans fought in conflicts, we aimed to disable and capture, not destroy. Not because we could not destroy, but because we chose not to. Lies. Vexrathi hissed. You expect us to believe you have been holding back? Taejin nodded to Admiral Hana. She touched a control on her wrist and new images appeared. These showed human military bases, hidden in asteroid fields in deep space. The images revealed hundreds of ships, massive weapons platforms, and technology the Council had never seen. This is one fleet, Hana said. Fleet Group 7. It has been on standby for 200 years. You have never seen it because it was kept hidden under Codex regulations. We have 15 fleet groups like this. The ships you saw in Council space were barely 10% of our actual military strength. The chamber filled with alarmed sounds. Species that had voted confidently hours ago now looked at each other with fear. Our expansion rate, Taejin said, bringing up another display, limited to 5% annually under the Codex. We could have colonized 3 times as much space. We have the ships, the people, the resources. We slowed ourselves down deliberately. We wanted to avoid making you nervous. He pulled up more data. Technology sharing. You complained we would not share our military technology. Do you know why? He did not wait for an answer. Because our military technology is based on weapons we created to fight ourselves. Weapons designed to overcome human defenses, human tactics, human psychology. If we gave that technology to other species, you would have created weapons that could kill entire worlds. Kyungsoo brought up chemical formulas and weapon designs. This is a simple example. A biological agent designed to shut down human immune systems. If released on Earth, it would kill billions before we could create a cure. We have dozens like this, created during our biological warfare period. We never shared them because we knew other species might adapt them, might use them, might create something that could wipe out not just humans but any carbon-based life. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Vexrathi had stopped his nervous clicking. You called us barbaric, Taejin said. You said we were too aggressive. But every human you met, every soldier you saw fight, every mercenary you complained about was operating under strict codex limitations. They were told to show restraint, to avoid overwhelming force, to win, but to win carefully. He walked to stand directly in front of Vexrathi. Do you want to know what human aggression really looks like? What happens when we do not hold back? Taejin activated another display. This one showed videos from Earth's history. Massive armies numbering in the millions, cities burning under firestorms created by thousands of bombs, oceans filled with warships stretching to the horizon, nuclear weapons turning landscapes into glass. This is what we do to each other, Taejin said quietly. When humans fight humans, we do not play games. We do not show mercy. We commit every resource, every person, every weapon to the goal of victory. We call it total war. And we stopped, Admiral Hana added. We looked at what we had done to ourselves and said, never again. Not to each other. Not to anyone. So we created the Codex, we made rules. We became civilized. Her eyes hardened. But you just voted us out of civilization. Commander Drick stood up from his seat. Wait, you are saying everything changes now? Because we expelled you? Taejin turned to face him. The Codex of Restraint had one condition. It would remain in effect as long as humanity was part of the galactic community. As long as we were bound by council laws and protections. As long as we were accepted. He paused. You just removed all 3 of those conditions. This is madness, Speaker Lithis said. You would threaten the entire galaxy because of one vote? Not a threat, Taejin replied. A statement of fact. You judged us by your standards and found us lacking. Now you will be judged by ours. He walked back toward the center of the chamber. Earth is no longer bound by council law. We no longer need to follow council regulations. We no longer need to limit ourselves to make you comfortable. Admiral Hana pulled up a final display. It showed deployment orders, fleet movements, and production schedules. As of 2 hours ago, all Codex restrictions were lifted. Our fleets are moving to full operational capacity. Our colonies are authorized for maximum expansion. Our weapons research programs frozen for 3 centuries are reactivated. Our industrial capacity held to 40% under the Codex is ramping up to full production. You started a war, Vexrathi whispered. No, Taejin said. You started a war when you decided humanity did not deserve a place at your table. We simply stopped pretending to be something we are not. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and High Counselor, you should know what total war means. It does not mean just military action. It means complete mobilization. Every human becomes part of the war effort. Every resource is dedicated to victory. Every advantage is exploited. Every weakness in our enemies is found and used. He looked at each council member in turn. We spent 300 years studying you, learning about you, understanding your biology, your psychology, your cultures. We know exactly how to defeat each of you. We just hoped we would never need to use that knowledge. The three humans walked out, leaving behind a council that now understood the true meaning of fear. The Earth Command Center sat deep beneath the mountains of what used to be called Korea. In the war room, massive screens showed star maps of the entire galaxy. Red dots marked human positions. Blue dots marked alien territories. The blue dots vastly outnumbered the red ones, but the humans in the room did not look worried. Admiral Hana stood at the command table, surrounded by officers from every branch of Earth's military. She was reading from a tablet, and her voice carried clearly through the room. By order of the unified Earth government, all codex of restraint protocols are hereby terminated, she said. All fleet restrictions are lifted. All weapon limitations are removed. All expansion caps are cancelled. As of this moment, Earth operates under total war doctrine. The room erupted in controlled activity. Officers began issuing orders. Screens lit up with new data. Communication channels opened to human bases across the galaxy. Someone explained to me why we are doing this, a young officer said. His name was Junho, and he had only been in the military for 5 years. He had never known a time without the codex. An older officer, a woman named Mi-sun with gray in her hair, turned to him. You want to know about total war? Let me tell you about Earth's history, son. She pulled up images on a nearby screen. In the year 1914 by the old calendar, a war began on Earth. It was called the First World War. Millions of soldiers fought in trenches, using poison gas and machine guns. Entire generations of young men died. When it ended, 10 million soldiers were dead and 7 million civilians. Junho looked shocked. 7 million civilians? But they were not even fighting. That is the point, Mi-sun said. In total war, everyone fights. The factory workers making bullets are as much part of the war as the soldiers. The farmers growing food are warriors feeding the army. The scientists developing weapons are on the front lines of innovation. Everything the nation has goes into the war effort. She changed the image. 20 years later, it happened again. World War II. This time, 60 million people died. Entire cities were bombed to rubble. Civilians worked in factories day and night. Women built planes. Children collected scrap metal. Every person contributed something. That is horrible, Junho said. It was, Mi-sun agreed. But it was also effective. Nations that fought total war could defeat enemies many times their size. They could replace losses faster than enemies could inflict them. They could adapt and innovate under pressure. That is what made humans successful. That is what made us dangerous. Admiral Hana walked over, having heard the conversation. The Codex was created so we would never have to do that again. So we would never mobilize our entire species for war. But the Council just forced our hand. She activated a new display showing production numbers. Before today, our shipyards were building at 40% capacity under Codex rules. Now watch. The numbers began climbing. 40% became 60, then 80. Within hours, they hit 100%. Then they kept going. How can they go above 100? Junho asked. Because we have reserve capacity, Hana explained. Shipyards we built but never activated. Workers we trained but never employed. Materials we stockpiled but never used. All waiting for the day the Codex ended. That day is today. Across Earth, the same scene played out in factories, research labs, and training centers. Facilities that had been empty suddenly filled with workers. Assembly lines that had been silent roared to life. Ships that had been in storage for decades were pulled out, upgraded, and made ready for war. On Mars, the orbital platforms activated their weapon systems for the first time. Each platform had been registered with the Council as a peaceful research station. Now their hull plates slid away to reveal massive railguns capable of throwing projectiles at a fraction of light speed. In the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed. The miners were real, the ore processing was real, but the facilities had always been designed with a hidden purpose. Within days, the asteroid bases became fortresses, bristling with weapons and shielded by layers of armor. Dr. Kyung-soo worked in a laboratory far from the military preparations. His team focused on something different, understanding the aliens. For 3 centuries, humanity had studied every species in the Council. They had learned languages, analyzed cultures, mapped biological weaknesses, and studied psychological patterns. This feels wrong, his assistant said. Her name was Yuna, and she had spent years studying Luminari culture. She had alien friends among the energy beings. We are going to use this knowledge to hurt them. Kyung-soo sighed. I know, I feel the same way. But we did not choose this. They expelled us. They made us enemies. He pulled up files on the Vrexel. Look at this. The Vrexel are hive-minded. They think in patterns, follow protocols, adapt slowly to change. A human general can make decisions in seconds. A Vrexel commander needs to consult the hive consciousness, which takes minutes. In battle, seconds matter. More files appeared. The Luminari exist as coherent energy patterns. They are held together by specific frequencies. Disrupt those frequencies and they lose cohesion. They do not die, but they cannot maintain consciousness. To them, it would be like forced sleep. The Korthan value honor above all else, Kyung-soo continued. Challenge them properly, and they will fight on terms favorable to us. Show cowardice, and they will lose respect and make mistakes in their anger. Yuna looked at all the data. You are saying we know exactly how to defeat everyone? We know their weaknesses, Kyung-soo confirmed. But more than that, we know how to fight together. Humans have one advantage no other species has. We practiced total war on ourselves for thousands of years. We learned every dirty trick, every effective strategy, every psychological technique. We became experts at defeating humans, and humans are the most adaptable, most stubborn, most creative warriors in the galaxy. He closed the files. If we can defeat ourselves, we can defeat anyone. Meanwhile, Admiral Hana was briefing the fleet commanders. Holographic images of officers appeared around the command table. Some called in from deep space, others from colony worlds. A few were on hidden military bases in neutral zones. Our strategy is simple, Hana said. We are outnumbered badly. They have 1,000 ships for every one of ours. But they have never seen what our ships can really do. She brought up weapon specifications. Our plasma cannons have been running at 40% power under Codex rules. At full power, they can cut through most alien shields in seconds. Our railguns have been limited to solid projectiles. Now we can use fragmentation rounds, EMP rounds, and antimatter-tipped rounds. Our fighters have been programmed with safety limiters. Those limiters are gone. Human pilots can now perform maneuvers that would make alien pilots pass out from the stress. Our ships can accelerate harder, turn faster, and fight longer than anything the Council has. But most importantly, Hana continued, we fight differently. Alien species have rules for warfare, honor codes, traditions, restrictions on what is acceptable. Humans learned long ago that in total war the only rule is victory. We will use any tactic, any strategy, any weapon that gets the job done. A commander spoke up, his face grim. Admiral, are we really going to do this? Fight the entire galaxy? Hana was quiet for a moment. I hoped we would never have to. I spent my whole career working within the Codex, proving that humans could be peaceful. But they do not want peace with us. They want us gone. So yes, Commander, we fight, and we make sure they regret forcing this war. On Earth, citizens watched the news broadcasts. The government had been honest with them. The entire species now understood what was happening. Some were afraid, some were angry, but most felt something else, unity. For the first time in 300 years, all of humanity had the same purpose. Factories requested volunteers. Millions responded. Research labs needed workers. They were flooded with applications. The military needed recruits. They had to turn people away because too many wanted to join. This was total war. Not just the military fighting, but everyone. Every person contributing whatever they could to the common goal. Survival. On her flagship, Admiral Hana looked at the fleet readiness reports. In just 3 days, Earth's military capacity had doubled. In a week, it would triple. The Codex had held humanity back for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to move without restrictions. Now they remembered. She opened a communication channel to the fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Hana. In 6 hours, we jump to the Vrexel border. High Counselor Vexrathi wanted us gone. Let us show him why we should have stayed. The Vrexel homeworld was called Vrex Prime, a planet covered in massive hive structures that reached toward the sky. Inside the largest hive, High Counselor Vexrathi received the first reports of human fleet movements. He did not believe them. Impossible, he clicked to his advisors. The humans have perhaps 200 warships total. Our intelligence has tracked them for decades. They cannot field a fleet of 2,000 ships. The reports must be wrong. But the reports were not wrong. Human fleets appeared at 3 different points along the Vrexel border simultaneously. Each fleet numbered over 800 ships. They were not the small, careful vessels the Council had grown used to seeing. These were larger, heavier, and covered in weapons that had never been registered with any galactic database. The Vrexel military responded quickly. They assembled a defense fleet of 3,000 ships and sent them to intercept. The hive mind calculated that 3-to-1 odds would be sufficient. They were wrong about that too. The first battle lasted exactly 47 minutes. Human ships moved like nothing the Vrexel had seen before. They did not follow standard combat formations. They did not announce their intentions or follow any recognized rules of engagement. They simply attacked with overwhelming precision and violence. Human railguns fired from distances the Vrexel thought impossible. By the time the alien ships got into their own weapon range, they had already taken heavy damage. Human fighters deployed in swarms, each pilot flying with a recklessness that seemed suicidal but somehow worked. They darted between enemy ships, targeting engines and weapon systems with devastating accuracy. The Vrexel tried to coordinate their response through the hive mind, but human electronic warfare ships were jamming their communications. Each Vrexel ship suddenly had to make its own decisions, and they were not designed for independent thought. They hesitated, they made mistakes, they died. When the battle ended, the Vrexel had lost over 1,000 ships. The humans had lost 30. On Vrex Prime, Vexrathi stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. "How?" he whispered. Across the galaxy, other species watched the battle footage with growing horror. The humans had not just won, they had dominated. They had made it look easy. In the Luminary Collective's central nexus, Speaker Lithis gathered her people to discuss the crisis. The Luminary were ancient, wise, and powerful. They had never feared any physical species, but now they understood they should have been afraid all along. "We must respond," one of the other Luminari said. "If we allow the humans to rampage unchecked, they will destroy everything." Lithis pulsed with uncertainty. "I reviewed the human data they shared. Their weapons technology is centuries ahead of what they showed us. Their tactics are based on thousands of years of constant warfare. How did we miss this?" "They hid it," another Luminary replied. "They deliberately appeared weaker than they were. This is deception on a scale we have never encountered." "It is strategy," Lithis corrected. "They studied us while pretending to be harmless. Now they know our weaknesses and we know almost nothing about theirs." She was right to be worried. Even as the Luminary spoke, human research teams were finalizing a weapon designed specifically for energy-based beings. It was a frequency disruptor, capable of scattering the coherent energy patterns that made up a Luminary consciousness. It would not kill them, but it would force them into a state of unconsciousness that could last for years. Dr. Kyungsu had argued against using such weapons. "This is too much," he said to Admiral Hana. "We are targeting their very existence, their consciousness." "They voted to erase us from galactic society," Hana replied coldly. "Did they worry about our existence then?" "No, they assumed we would simply accept isolation and eventually fade away. Well, we will not fade, and we will use every weapon we have." Kyungsu looked at the weapon specifications with sad eyes. "When did we become the monsters they feared?" "We became monsters," Hana said quietly, "the moment they decided we could not be friends." On the Korthan homeworld, Commander Drix faced a difficult decision. His people were warriors. They respected strength. The humans had just demonstrated incredible strength. But the Korthan were also loyal to the Council, and the Council was calling for all species to unite against the human threat. Drix called a meeting of the Korthan War Council. The great hall filled with warriors, each covered in battle scars and wearing armor earned through combat. Drix stood before them and spoke. "The Council demands we fight the humans," he said. "They say humanity is a threat to galactic peace. But I was there when the vote happened. I saw what the Council did. They did not vote for peace. They voted from fear." "Fear is weakness," one of the war chiefs growled. "Exactly," Drix agreed. "The Council is weak. They feared human strength and decided to cast them out rather than accept them as equals. And now the humans are showing everyone what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness." "Should we side with the humans?" another chief asked. "I did not say that," Drix replied, "but I will not side against them either. The Korthan will abstain from this war. We will defend our territory, but we will not join in an attack on humanity. This is not our fight. It was a dangerous position, but it was the honorable one. Several other species quietly followed the Korthan example, declaring neutrality. The Council's united front was already cracking. Meanwhile, human special forces were conducting operations that seemed impossible. Small teams infiltrated alien worlds not to cause destruction, but to gather intelligence and demonstrate human capabilities. On a Dulari trade station, 3 humans walked through the highest security areas without being detected. They left a simple message on the station commander's personal computer. We could have destroyed this station. We chose not to. Make peace and we remain friends. The Dulari Federation, a species of peaceful traders, was the first to break. Their leadership contacted Ambassador Taejin secretly and asked for terms. Taejin's terms were surprisingly generous. Return to neutral status. Do not aid the Council military forces. Continue normal trade with human colonies. In exchange, we guarantee your safety and maintain our previous trade agreements. The Dulari agreed immediately. More cracks appeared in the Council's unity. High Counselor Vexarathi tried to hold the alliance together. He called for a joint military operation, a massive fleet from multiple species that would overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. The fleet assembled near the galactic core. Over 10,000 ships from 20 different species. It was the largest military force ever gathered in galactic history. Vexarathi was confident this would end the human threat. The fleet jumped to human space ready to attack Earth itself. But when they arrived, they found nothing. Human colonies were abandoned. Defensive stations were empty. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. Where are they? Vexarathi demanded. The answer came 3 hours later. While the massive alien fleet had been traveling to human space, human fleets had struck at targets across the galaxy. They hit military shipyards, supply depots, and communication hubs. Each strike was quick, precise, and devastating. The alien fleet rushed back to defend their homeworlds, but by the time they arrived, the humans were gone. They had struck and retreated, leaving destruction in their wake. They are using our size against us, one of the alien admirals realized. We are too big, too slow. They are small and fast. They can hit us anywhere, and we cannot catch them. It was a lesson from human military history, guerrilla warfare. Do not fight on the enemy's terms. Do not engage in battles you cannot win. Hit fast, hit hard, and disappear before the enemy can respond. The Council fleet split up, trying to protect multiple locations at once. This was exactly what the humans wanted. Divided, the alien forces were vulnerable. United, they were too slow. Admiral Hana watched the Council fleet movements from her command center. She smiled grimly. They are doing exactly what we predicted. They are fighting like they always have, following the rules they always followed. But we are not following any rules anymore. She opened a communication channel to all human fleets. Begin Operation Thunderstorm. Show them what happens when you fight humanity without restrictions. What followed was a coordinated assault that military historians would study for centuries. Human fleets appeared at 17 different locations simultaneously. Each fleet struck at critical infrastructure, causing maximum disruption with minimal casualties. They avoided civilian areas but destroyed military and industrial targets with ruthless efficiency. The Council tried to respond, but they were always one step behind. By the time their forces arrived at one attack site, humans were striking somewhere else. After 2 weeks of this, the galaxy understood a terrible truth. Humanity was not just winning battles. They were winning the war, and they were doing it while still holding back. Ambassador Taejin sent a message to every species in the Council. It was simple and direct. We did not want this war. You forced it upon us. Make peace now on fair terms, or we will continue until you have no choice. The decision is yours. Some species began to listen. The smart ones realized that humanity had demonstrated incredible power while avoiding mass casualties. They could have killed billions. They had chosen not to. That was not the behavior of monsters. That was the behavior of warriors who still remembered mercy. But Vexarathi refused to surrender, and as long as he led the Council, to weaken themselves to join the Council. They were only required to use their strength responsibly. Third, cultural differences were protected. No species would be forced to conform to another's definition of civilization. The new Council charter was written over 2 months of intense negotiation. It was not perfect, but it was better. It recognized that the galaxy was diverse, and that diversity included different approaches to peace and war. On the day the new charter was signed, Admiral Hanna gave a speech to the human fleets. Today we proved that humanity belongs in the galaxy. Not because we are strongest, though we showed we are strong. Not because we are smartest, though we showed we are clever. But because we know when to fight and when to stop fighting. That wisdom is worth more than any weapon. Dr. Kyung-soo watched the speech from his laboratory. He thought about all the weapons they had developed, all the tactics they had used, all the destruction they had caused. And he thought about all the destruction they had chosen not to cause. We won the war, he said to his assistant Yuna. But more importantly, we won it without becoming monsters. We stayed human, Yuna smiled. The Codex of Restraint is being reinstated tomorrow, did you hear? But this time it is voluntary. We choose it. That makes all the difference, Kyung-soo agreed. Before we restrained ourselves to be accepted. Now we restrain ourselves because we choose to, because we know our own strength and we decide how to use it. On Vrex Prime, High Counselor Vex Rathi was no longer High Counselor. The hive mind had selected a new leader, one more suited to the new era of cooperation. But Vex Rathi remained as an advisor, and in that role he did something unexpected. He sent a message to Ambassador Tae-jin. It was brief. Thank you for showing mercy. The Vrexil will not forget. Tae-jin read the message and smiled. It was a beginning. Not a perfect beginning, but a real one. The galaxy had learned that humanity was strong. Now it would learn that humanity was also fair, just, and capable of forgiveness. The war had lasted only 3 months, but it had changed everything. The old council, built on the idea that peace meant weakness, was gone. The new council recognized that true peace required strength, wisdom, and the courage to use both appropriately, and humanity. The species that had been judged and expelled had earned its place not through conquest but through demonstrating both the capacity for war and the wisdom to choose peace. The vote to banish Earth had passed. But in the end, it was the galaxy that learned the most important lesson. Never mistake restraint for weakness, and never judge a species until you understand what they choose not to do.